Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to make this beautiful buttercream cake in Frozen theme. We know everybody loves Frozen, we love it at our house, and we're going to show you how to create this stunning buttercream cake. Okay, now the first thing you're going to want to do is crumb coat both of your cakes. So I've crumb coated the top tier in a pure white, which means using a shortening based buttercream instead of a butter based buttercream. So it is my sweet buttercream recipe, but I've just replaced the butter with shortening. So I've done it on the sides and I haven't done too much on the top. And the reason for that is when we go to roll it in our sprinkles, we need to have some way of holding on to it. If you put frosting on it now, it's just going to peel off again anyway. So let's get a proper coat on the sides of this cake and then we can roll it in our gorgeous silver sprinkles. Now you want to apply a decent coat of this because you do want to cover up that board a little bit, and you need to make sure there's enough for the sprinkles to actually stick to. All right, now it's time to scrape that back off, just leaving a nice, decent, thick coat on there. All right, and now with this top, all I'm going to do is just brush it up and get rid of it. Any crumbs, take them off to the side. You don't want those at all. Now I've gotten out a baking dish. You can use any sort of cookie tray, but you just want it to be deep enough and large enough to fit the cake in. And I'm taking some, it's this the Wilton Silver Pearlized Sprinkles, and I'm going to be using these to coat our cake with. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more. You'll need a decent amount in here. Now I've cut out a small disc that's an inch smaller than our cake so that we can place that on top and it won't touch any of our icing that's on the outside. And I'm just using this as a brace so that I have a board on one side, a board on the other, and it makes it easier to roll. So taking our spatula, I'm going to pop it underneath, pick up our cake, lay it sideways and simply roll. All the way around. If there's any sections where it doesn't want to attach, you can just sprinkle it on top and pat it down. And this is just such a beautiful, easy technique that anybody can do. Okay, so now I'm going to place it back onto my turntable, pry off our top. Just apply a little bit more of our frosting on top. And what I like to do is start by getting a decent amount on top because you want to eat a decent amount of frosting on top, and you don't want to see any cake through it. But I just don't go all the way to the very edge in my first couple of goes around. I just slowly ease it up to meet. Okay, now I find the easiest way or the cleanest way to do this is just to pick it up again, being really careful of the bottom. Hold it up and then just take these and tip them all over the top of the cake. And any excess that you have, you can just brush them over. I just like to use a straight finger across, just my index finger across and just over the edge. Got any little sections where the sides and the top meet, just sprinkle them directly on. And now we're just going to allow this whole thing to rest. I'm going to pop it onto a little bit of baking paper or parchment paper, place it in the fridge, and that way it can just crust up a little bit and make it easier to stack. I've gone ahead and popped my bottom tier onto a cake board. I'm just using a plain white board, just large enough for all the ruffles to fit, and that's all. I really want this cake to be finished off and go on a nice white cake stand and just look flawless as it is. Now I've gone ahead and put all the dowels in it to stack as well. I just wanted to show you popping on this top tier. So I've got my dowels in. I'm just going to apply a little bit of buttercream to the top. Not too much, I want to keep it nice and level. And then taking my tier it's been in the fridge, so it has chilled, which helps a lot. And I'm just going to lift this up and place it carefully on top. Now you'll notice that you lose some of the sparkles, and the reason why I'm stacking it up before the bottom tier is decorated is just for that very reason. So carefully, spatula behind, place it down, clean up your hands just a little bit, and this needs to come back just a touch. Now you can press down quite carefully. You will get some of the excess on you, that's okay. And you just want to come around and make sure that the base, you haven't moved any of that icing. And lastly, what I'm going to do is just take some tweezers and get rid of any excess. Now that our cake is stacked, we can go ahead and pop it onto a turntable and get ready to do our ruffles. Now I'm choosing 3 colors. I've got a purple, a teal green, and a sky blue. I've got all the details for exactly what colors I used, because I know a lot of you ask what colors I used to get the shade that I show you. So I've got that in materials. And what I want to do is I've gone ahead and made the purple our crumb coat, because the purple is going to be our top color. We're going to start our ruffles at the bottom with our blue, work up to a teal, and then finish with this gorgeous purple. And the way that I'm going to do it is using a 125 petal tip, which is an extra large petal tip. So it looks a lot like the 104 that I use constantly in everything. It's just jumbo sized. So I've got my icings, but what I want to do as well is mark up the cake and divide it kind of roughly into 3 sections. So I've gone ahead and got a tape measure, and I'm just going to measure the height of the cake, and it's at 12 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is make a line at 4 and another one around 8. And I'm going to do that around the cake in about 4 or 5 spots just to keep myself on track. Okay, now if you're really worried, what you can do is come along. I'm using one of our long scrapers. You can use any size. You can even use the edge of a spatula. And I'm just going to show you how you can join these lines up if you really want to create a nice solid line around for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to take my blue, which is going to be my bottom shade. And what we want to do is we want to work on this cake where the big end of our petal tip is blunted up against the cake and the smaller end is leaning and facing out towards us. Now, basically the technique that we're going to do is often referred to as running dog. So it's basically a movement like the waves of the ocean. You're just going round and round and round, and it's that sort of wave action, and it's at a decent speed that creates all of those flows, the ruffles, and all that beautiful movement. So going up against the cake and just going up and down. So I'm just going to place some more icing into here. And just release that pressure. It's really important to hear that little pop. And we're just going to continue up, just slowly guiding your way from one layer to the next. And end that off. Starting again with our teal colour, we're going to get ready to start piping our running dog all over again. And for a final finishing touch, I'm just going to work up the top of the cake. And there you go, all the piping is done. We're ready to get our snowflakes on there. Now on this cake we have some gorgeous snowflakes sparkling their way up to the very top of the cake. I'm going to show you how to make those. I've gone ahead and pre-made some of our white. I've also made one purple snowflake, and I've made a number 4 in our sky blue. So I'll show you how I did that. It's just using some cookie cutters. I've got some fondant and I have placed a bit of Tylose in it. Cellulose, it's also known as, and that just helps them to harden. And I've got some 20 gauge wires, so they're quite thick, an 18 or a 20 gauge wire, because you do need them to hold up very well and not wiggle around at all. So I've rolled out some of this. I'm going to cut it out in the shape of our snowflake. Give it a little wriggle, and I like to pry the outside first, and that helps to avoid some of the fuzzies that you get. And then just come back and clean it up on the back. Okay, then we're going to pop that out. Now we need to have quite a few that don't have wires in them working your way up the cake, but we do need to have some on top. So to do that, we take our wire, pop it into a bit of sugar glue, using the crease in my hand to wipe most of it off, and that will help you to not waterlog this with the glue. So now I'm going to take the wire, pressing it up against one of the spikes, holding on, I place my finger on top, and that helps to brace it so that it doesn't cut through. And I like to work it up till it's about 2/3 of the way up our snowflake. Just give it a gentle rub, and then we allow that to dry. Once they are dry, you want to go ahead and apply a sparkle to them. Now I'm going to use some clear alcohol and some white sparkle shimmer. What you want to look for is not a luster dust or a petal dust, because they don't have that sparkly effect to them. You want to go for something that says disco or sparkle. So small paintbrush, just apply to the entire front surface of this, making sure you get all of it. Then we take some of our luster, so picking up a little bit and just sprinkle it on top. And we can do the same to our number 4. So the snowflakes that don't have a wire in it are going to need some royal icing to attach to our cake. I'm choosing not to use any clear alcohol or sugar glue, because you're attaching something that has a little bit of weight to it, and it's applied to basically a sparkle, so it's going to need a little extra help. So I've made up some royal icing, and basically I'm going to aim to have our snowflakes work their way up and then put the ones that have the wires directly on top of the cake. So taking some of our snowflakes, find where you would like your center to be, and just start picturing where they're going to be. You want them coming up on an angle. So taking your first one, flip it over, place a little bit of royal on the back. Now if you don't trust yourself with having some royal like that, you can also use a piping bag to attach it. Pressing it onto the cake. I love how doing it this way makes them really 3D, because they don't curve around the cake, they pop straight out. You're going to need to hold on to each one, probably about 30 seconds or so, just to make sure that they're fully attached, and then you can continue with another one. So we might take a small one this time. A little dab of royal, and place it up against the next one. As we get ready to put the ones on top, what I want to do is I need to break up the blue of our number 4 and the purple that we have going on with one of our snowflakes, and interject a little bit of white between them. So I'm going to place the large one, which is going to be more towards the back, up here, keeping it just a little bit high, come back with our smaller purple. I'm going to want to put one of our white snowflakes right down low, just to help bridge the gap between the ones that are attached on the cake and the ones that are on toppers. Placing our number 4 behind. And there you have it, guys, a perfect frozen cake for a gorgeous little girl.